Hello guys, and welcome to the next video in our series. Today we're going to be talking about the arms, the lower arms to be more precise, sometimes referred also as the forearm. And this is actually one of the trickiest parts of the body. I would say it might be one of the most complicated parts to teach due to the fact that the arm has three positions that make it a little bit difficult to understand how the muscles connect and work together. So let's start by exploring the bones right now. And the first thing I need you to see is that, oh, not there. We have two new bones, or actually a couple of more, but two new important bones that we need to explore. And that's the ulna and the humerus. The ulna and the radius. The ulna and the radius are these two bones that we find in the forearm, and they're the ones in charge of pretty much rotating the forearm. Now, how are you going to know which one is which? I'm going to ask you to do an exercise, and I'm going to trust that you're going to do it. You're going to stand up or just remain seated, whatever works for you. You're going to move or place your arm in this position. I suck at drawing, you know that, guys, so just bear with me. You're going to place your thumb pointing up and your palm pointing to the front, like so. This guy has a deformity here with a huge arm. Whatever. Now, the bone that is closest to your thumb, like on the outer side, that is the radius. And you're going to remember that because your thumb right now is working as the antenna, okay? So anytime you want to know where your radius is, just look to where your thumb is, and that side of your forearm, that's where the radius is going to be, always. The other arm, by elimination, is going to be the ulna. Now, what kind of movement do these things do? It's actually very simple. This position that you have right here in this diagram is called supination. And it basically means that the palm is facing forward or it's facing up. And I remember this term by think about getting both of your hands close together in supination fashion. So your palms looking or pointing to the top here. And it's like if you were asking for soup. So if you're asking for soup, that's supination, okay? And the other method or the other position is if your palms do a complete twist and start looking backward or down. That position is called pronation, okay? Pronation. And there's, of course, semi-pronation, and which is an in-between, which is actually the position that we're working on, because the palms are neither looking forward nor backward, but rather towards our character. And that's semi-pronation, and then I believe semi-supination is if you try to turn your hands all the way to the other side. Anyway, so how does this work? Well, the main thing that happens here is that the radius, this little guy over here, will roll on top of the ulna, and what's going to happen is instead of having these two lines like this, you will have this, okay? So this bone right here rolls around and crosses your ulna to get this like X looking shape. And that's how you pretty much rotate your forearm. It gets really tricky because we're going to study the muscles in this position, in supination, but we will have to sculpt them in semi-pronation. Now, it's not a big deal. I'm going to make it really easy for you as soon as we hit the muscle. So just bear with it and remember that the only movement that you're seeing here from the bones is one crossing on top of the other. Now, the most important bone for me to teach you that I want you to remember is the ulna. The ulna plays a great role because the ulna is your elbow, guys. See right here? Like this big thing, this big like volume of bone, that's your ulna, and you can feel your elbow very easily. The other thing you can do is you can start touching the ulna ridge. And if you start following that ridge from the elbow, you can pretty much follow the bone all the way to the pinky finger back here. So I would like you to try that. Try pausing the video and just touch your elbow and follow your bone all the way to the pinky finger. And that's going to be a great thing for us because once we hit the sculpture phase, we need to identify where those bones are so that it makes it easier for us to locate where the muscles are going to be. Okay, now let's jump into the muscles. I have a good news for you and bad news for you. The bad news is if you want to be a pro, you're going to have to learn like 26 muscles because there's 4 different layers of muscles in the arm, and there's different kinds of muscles everywhere. That's because we have a very complex system in our fingers, in our hand, and all of the muscles from our forearm right here will have something to do with the fingers on the hand. However, the good news is, if you're just gonna be a character artist and you just want to have the necessary information to sculpt a nice forearm, these are the only ones that you need to learn. It's just like 5. How are we gonna do this? Very easy. First of all, we need to identify the epicondyles. Remember, the two little like balls or protrusions from the humerus. And remember, we had the internal epicondyle right there and the external epicondyle right there. This guy right here is the external one because we're seeing it from the side, and this is the other view. So internal and external. Now, my flexor muscles are going to be green, and my extensor muscles are going to be blue. Now look at this. The extensor muscles, all of the extensor muscles are pretty much going to originate or begin on the internal epicondyle. So we're going to have a big blob of muscles here. Think of it like a chicken leg. So it's like a huge amount of muscles here, and they're all going to throw their tendons into my hand like so and do whatever they need to do. So that's internal epicondyle flexors. So that's the flexors. And the external epicondyle is going to have all my extensors, which are going to do the opposite action. They're going to throw all the tendons to the back side of the hand, and they're going to extend the fingers. Now, if we go to the side view, since we're looking at the extensor side, we're probably going to see this. You're going to see a big blob here of muscles, and I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, and I'm making a mistake there. So blue is going to be all around here, and they're going to throw all the tendons to the back. And we might see a little bit of volume like poking through, and all the tendons to the front. Got it? Same thing here. Extensors. Oh, let's grab the blue. They're going to be all the way here and to the back of the bones of the hand. And flexors on the side here and to the front, which we're not going to be able to see. Now, this is the important thing. The reason why I asked you guys to touch the elbow and follow it all the way to the pinky finger is because the ulna here acts as some sort of barrier that divides the compartments of both the extensors and the flexors. See? So whatever lays on this side of the ulna is the extensors, and to the other side you're gonna see the flexors. Now on the front side, pretty much you will see most of the volume coming from the flexors, but there will be a little bit of volume coming from the extensors as well, so don't worry. There's no like natural barrier, but you can think of the radius as some sort of guide to where the flexors are going to be and where the extensors are going to be. So that's the main two groups that we need to keep in mind. Now, besides that, there are two very important muscles, and I would say this might be the most important thing for a proper forearm. And this is called, these two muscles are called the brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus, or ECRL for short. I'll just call it the extensor carpi or extensor radialis. These two muscles do not originate on the forearm. They start actually from the arm, from the humerus, and they start on top here, from this place. What they're gonna do is, from a side view, you can see the ridge there where they insert. They're gonna insert on that ridge, create their volume, and travel, create all the form, and travel to the front of the arm. So we're gonna start there, create the volume, go over the extensors on the front side here, and go here towards the wrist. These muscles right here are the ones that allow me to get my hand back into the supination position, okay? Because as the name implies, it goes to the radius. It goes from the humerus to the radius here. So it turns the radius back around so that it's my arm is supinating again. Now, this right here, my friends, is the secret. The volume that you get from the extensors and the brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus makes the arm look like it has some sort of peak on the outside, and then another peak thanks to the flexors on the inside, but the peaks are not at the same height. Remember how on the side view we had the tricep here and the bicep down here with a different position in where the volumes were? Well, the same thing is going to happen here. The extensors and both of these muscles are going to be higher up than the flexors, and that's going to give us a very nice dynamic look for the silhouette of our arm. So keep that in mind for when we start sculpting stuff. The final muscle, a teacher of mine called this the Dorito muscle, because it's like a little triangle thing. It's on the back here, and it crosses pretty much like this. And this is going to be very interesting because in the reference in just a second, you're going to see how it makes a nice little shadow here on the elbow. So let's jump into the reference. Here we go. And look at this amazing arm right here. Now, if this is the back view that we're seeing, that means that we can easily locate where the elbow is, right here. And we can easily locate where the pinky finger is, right here. So that means that this bone right here is the ulna. And we can draw pretty much a line that goes from the elbow to the ulna and divides both compartments. I believe we had the red for the flexors, or no, it wasn't red. Oh, that's the red, whatever. So the flexors are going to start here and go to the front of the arm, and the extensors are going to start here and go to the back of the hand. Okay. Now this is an interesting position because the hand it's twisted. So that's why it's very important to always know where your stuff is. So for instance, I'm seeing that am I right? I think I'm right. Let me check. Let's do this arm over here as well. It's going to be a little bit easier. So again, we find the secret for arms is we find the elbow. We follow the elbow to the pinky finger right here. And this bone right here, it's the bone of the pinky finger. You can see pretty much the ulna traveling there. Now, all the muscles that are on this side of the ulna, all of these guys, are the extensors, because they're gonna go to the back side of the hand. All the ones that I can't see right now are the flexors. And along with the extensors that I'm seeing right here, you can very clearly see the brachioradialis here and the extensor carporadialis longus, which will go to the other side and pretty much wrap around and finish here. That's why I was mentioning that the arm tends to be tricky, because if you see the arm on a pronation side with the palm facing back or facing to the other side, it gets tricky due to the fact that we learn the muscles on the supination, which is the anatomically correct position. Now, the two tips that I want to share with you is the following. For you to have a nice sculpting on the elbow, you need to follow these three guidelines. First, make sure that the insertion for the extensor carporadialis longus and the brachioradialis is nice and clear. You can see the line there. You can see how the volume changes here from the tricep that's coming from the arm into the brachioradialis longus. And that line is very important. Now, for the ulna here, I usually like to sculpt this wrinkly thing, like a couple of divots and changes there, and then this sort of triangle here. Okay, see there? Now, in a very strong arm, which we don't have right now, you would see conus on this side of the arm. If this is the extensor carporadialis longus, you can see it right there. It starts pretty much from the middle line of the arm, goes to the front, or actually it wraps around and it will pretty much end up in here. Well, the inconus muscle will be around here, something like that. So again, elbow, you can follow the ridge all the way to the pinky finger. All of these muscles are extensors because they're on the outside and they are joined by the brachioradialis and the extensor carporadialis longus. And on the inside, we're going to have the flexors. Okay, So don't forget that, guys. Again, this can get a little bit tricky. I know it's one of the most difficult parts, especially because of the positions that I was talking about. But once we hit the sculpture area, you're gonna see that it's not as difficult as it might seem. Now, see again, this is very nice. Just touching a little bit about the arms. You can very clearly see how the external head of the tricep is higher up than the internal one. And in this case, this women's a little bit stronger, so you can see a little bit of that divot here with the tendon and everything. So make sure to look at your reference, make sure to look for the muscles, and try to find the bones. If you find the bones, guys, you're golden. You're gonna be pretty close to victory if you know where your bones are, because once you know where the position of the bones is, placing the muscles is gonna be easy peasy. Anyway, I hope you liked this information, and I'll see you guys in the next video, starting with the sculpture.